Okay! Sussan Ley, Peter Dutton's former number 2, has emerged victorious to take up the poisoned chalice of the Liberal Party leadership.
It is an enormous privilege to have been elected the leader of the Parliamentary Liberal Party. We have to have a Liberal Party that respects modern Australia, that reflects modern Australia, and that represents modern Australia. And we have to meet the people where they are.
In announcing herself as the first female leader of the Leftovers, Sussan wanted to tell the country a little bit about herself.
I want to talk a little bit about me. And I want to talk about my views of the Liberal Party, because the Liberal Party has shaped the person that I am today.
Fortunately, I prepared something a little earlier, so here's the Cliff Notes version. Sussan Ley has held the seat of Farrer on the New South Wales-Victoria border since 2001. Farrer has been held by the Coalition since its creation in 1949. It's been such a safe Coalition seat that despite recording an almost 9% swing against her in the most recent election, Ley still romped at home. A little known fact is that Sussan Ley is an immigrant. She was born in Nigeria. Around a year after she was born, her family then moved to the United Arab Emirates. She would then go on to boarding school in the UK before her family migrated to Australia. Sussan added a third S to her name because of a numerology theory she'd read about that said in doing so could result in a personality change and ensure that her life was never boring.
Yes, science!
Although now 10 years after revealing that, she's kind of rewriting her own origin story a bit. Sussan, though, is arguably best known for her love of travel on the taxpayer dime.
Departmental documents revealing Ms Ley charged taxpayers more than $10,000 per day during a trip to the United States last February. The total bill, $76,133 for the 7-day trip, or $10,876 per day.
I'm out there making fat stacks, man. Chill.
And for her love of the Gold Coast.
Day by day, we get a clearer look at the cost of Sussan Ley's love affair with the Gold Coast. It's increasingly likely to both finish her ministerial career...
Spoiler alert!
He clearly didn't.
5 years later.
I thank the Liberal Party room for the great honour of being elected Deputy Leader.
3 years later.
It is an enormous privilege to have been elected the leader of the Parliamentary Liberal Party.
If you learn nothing else from this video, it's that you don't have to spend too long in political purgatory before you're back on the gravy train.
22 taxpayer-funded trips to the Gold Coast in 3.5 years. Cost almost $65,000. She had claimed the apartment she bought during one trip was a last-minute decision.
The purchase of this particular property was neither planned nor anticipated.
But now this. Pictures of another Gold Coast property she apparently offered to buy 9 months earlier.
Of course she did!
While on another of those taxpayer-funded trips.
Ley has quite the track record when it comes to running up expenses, so it's going to be worth seeing if she can break her previous records now that she's opposition leader. But besides all that though, my number one memory of Sussan Ley is as Minister for the Environment, a position she held for 3 years.
I think there was a sprinkler.
As Minister for the Environment, she seemed to spend most of her time opposing anything that would actually help protect the environment, and more of her time embracing fossil fuels. In the dying days of the Morrison government, she really chomped through the coal mine approvals. Sussan enjoyed being photographed with fluffy animals, that is, when she wasn't busy consigning other fluffy animals to extinction. As Minister for the Environment, Sussan sat on the State of the Environment report for 6 months, leaving it for the incoming Labor government to share the bad news after the election.
Today, as part of my statutory duty as Minister, I am publicly releasing the 2021 State of the Environment report. This report was delivered to the government last year. The previous Minister, Sussan Ley, received it before Christmas but chose to keep it hidden, locked away until after the federal election. And when you read it, you'll know why.
She left quite the environmental legacy. But the years roll on and now it's time for a fresh start, and Sussan is the big Liberal cheese, having swum to the top of what appears to be a very, very shallow Liberal Party talent pool.
And I think one of the challenges we have, to be candid, in the Liberal Party is the enormous amount of talent.
Look, I don't know what Timu ScoMo was on, but I want some. It took all of about 24 hours for the knives to come out, which always bodes well for a party leader stepping into the top job after their party has been thumped at an election.
Coalition government is always stronger when there is a coalition between the Liberals and the Nationals, and I strongly believe that.
I mean, anything's possible, I guess, but you'd have to think that Sussan Ley is long odds to be opposition leader by the time the next election comes around, based purely on the amount of post-leadership announcement rumblings that have come out in recent days. I mean, this coming out literally the morning after was not exactly a glowing endorsement.
The division in the federal Liberals is this morning being laid bare as one of the most senior women in the party conceded she doesn't know how long Sussan Ley will last as leader. Liz, it's an extraordinary admission.
It is, Jane. Less than 24 hours after Sussan Ley became the first woman to lead the federal Liberals, her own party vice president has refused to say how long that leadership will last. Sussan Ley emerging from Party Room yesterday with a very narrow win over Angus Taylor in a ballot that exposed deep divisions within the party. And now, on the Today Show, those divisions have played out live.
How long do you give her?
I don't know. I mean, a day's a long time in politics, Carl, so...
That's not exactly a ringing endorsement.
Not much confidence there.
Well, you know, it could be a day. It won't be a day, I'm being cheeky. But, I mean, look, you don't know what the political tides will bring.
Ouch. That's pretty... It's not the most ringing endorsement I've heard.
Ouch, indeed.
And Sky News pulled out some dirt they've clearly been sitting on for a while.
But first tonight, an investigation has found the new Liberal leader, Sussan Ley, failed to declare personal expenses paid by the anti-Semitic Palestinian Authority. Her office launched an internal investigation after I discovered in January that Sussan Ley had failed to declare accommodation, meals and transport paid by the Palestinian Authority on a trip to the West Bank in 2011. You'd have to agree, surely, that she is a placeholder. She's not someone who provides any threat to Albanese at all.
It seems pretty clear that Sussan Ley doesn't seem to be enjoying all that much support from the Sky News circus, and really, maybe that's a good thing. I mean, the Libs would be better served ignoring rather than courting Sky News if they are serious about rebuilding their brand.
There is only one credible and genuine option if the Liberal Party ever wants to govern Australia again. And that's for the party to convince Josh Frydenberg to run again.
Is she for real?
So, Sussan, good luck, I guess. If there's one thing we probably agree on, it's that a strong democracy needs a strong opposition.
Every good government deserves a strong opposition.
I reckon weak opposition just leads to a weak milquetoast government, and really, that's the last thing we need about now.